In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott. Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Elliott, is that microphone working?
I
We'll
think it is
share.
now.
Check. Now it's working. Thank you.
Okay, 9 present. Chair recognizes Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I request my colleagues a moment of silence for darkened chambers for John Topia, loving, devoted husband, father, grandfather, former employee of the City of Lowell, brother of former city manager William Topia. And for Albert Rick, a loving and devoted husband, father, grandfather, businessman, owner of Comfort Bedding, philanthropist, compassionate. He showed that compassion during the Katrina flood in New Orleans when people moved into our community, and he furnished them with the furniture, at least 10 apartments with furniture, and also the people in Lowell who suffered during the flood. He also very quietly helped those people as well. May two of these gentlemen rest in peace. Thank you.
Please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. May they rest in peace. Okay, the first item on the agenda this evening is to recognize one of our citizens who is a hero in our midst. Catherine Cassie Burns was recently participated in the rescue of people during a fire. I'd ask her to please come forward to the podium, and we have a brief citation presentation to make. Be it hereby known to all in the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that we hereby honor Catherine Cassie Burns for her heroic act in saving the lives of 10 sleeping residents on January 17, 2007. Cassie is a transportation security officer for the Homeland Security Department and was on her way to work that morning when she noticed a fire on Bridge Street. Cassie deserves great commendation for heroic acts in running into the burning building to alert the residents and notifying authorities that cold early morning. Her selfless efforts prevented a possible fatality. The entire City of Lowell joins her family members, and I know her boss, Mr. Goldsworthy, is here from the Homeland Security Department. We all join in expressing our deepest gratitude to Cassie for her heroism and for serving the community well. The entire city is proud to honor this distinguished citizen who truly represents what working together in a community is all about. Given this 6th day of February by me, William F. Martin, Jr., the mayor, Cassie, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say quick. I'm really nervous, so please forgive me. I just have a quick.
Sure.
Mayor Martin, Fire Chief DeRosa, councilmen and women, thank you from the bottom of my heart for honoring me this evening. I was simply blessed to be in the right place at the right time to help those that I was able to help. I am thankful, so very thankful, to be part of such a giving and caring, loving community. I didn't expect all of this attention, but some quiet, sneaky little friends and family decided that I deserved it and notified all of you. In my mind and heart, I will always think that I was simply doing the right thing, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cassie is here with her children. I recognize Fire Chief DeRozier to offer his congratulations as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's indeed a pleasure for me to come here tonight. It's not every day that a citizen of this fine city goes and extends himself in such a dangerous situation. And when they do, they put themselves in danger to fulfill the goal of helping all our citizens that are inside this building and to lead them out to safety. And I think it's just a wonderful thing that one of the members of our community goes above and beyond the call as driving by and to go into this. So it's when I learned of this and notified by the mayor's office and along with Superintendent LaValle, we appreciated the information that was given to us and the citation here by the mayor. And I just wanted to come here tonight. I hadn't had a chance to meet Cassie and to thank her and offer my congratulations to her. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Cassie, you're free to stay for as long as you'd like in the meeting, but most people like to leave at some point. Okay. All right. Thank you.
My family does as well.
Okay. On the formal agenda this evening, we have minutes from the January 30th meeting for approval and acceptance. Councilor Armin Mercier? Motion to approve by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under communications from the city manager, we have responses to various council motions and requests. Any questions or comments concerning those? Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to either the city manager or the assistant solicitor, Mr. Fenton. I did receive the report on 319 Wilder Street regarding the Justice Resource Institute Incorporated. In looking at the information, and it was quite thorough, thank you, Attorney Fenton. Looks like they've been in existence for close to 30 or so years. My question is, if you look at the articles of incorporation, it talks about they were put in place to seek and further the diversion of persons charged with crime from the criminal process, the elimination of unnecessary incarcerations for accused or convicted criminal offenders. I guess my question is, will this property actually be used to house criminals? I guess is a simple way to put it. Are people that have actually gone through the criminal process or the justice system, and will it in fact be a halfway house, or I guess what will it be used for ultimately?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I don't think at this time that we're fully aware of the full use that will be made. I think that it was indicated both residential and non-residential counseling would occur, so I would assume that what you call a halfway house may be in their plans. I think it's something that, that we're going to further have to explore, certainly, in order to determine the full intended use. But obviously, from their articles of organization, it certainly indicates that. And if you notice in that memorandum, a copy was sent to the superintendent,
Yes,
acting superintendent of police as well, because naturally we would invite and appreciate any input from that department on this subject.
Well, that being said, thank you, Attorney Fenton. That being said, would it make sense, Mr. Manager, for you to reach out to the executive director of this institute and have a sit down and just find out what their plans are for the building?
We can certainly do that, Councilor. I'll contact them this week and try to arrange a meeting and get a report back to the council on what I've learned.
And are we to understand that this property will also be coming off the tax rolls? Unfortunately, they are a Chapter 180 nonprofit corporation, so it looks as though it might be coming off the tax rolls as well.
That's certainly a good possibility, I would think. Okay. The assessors obviously would have to make that final determination.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions or comments concerning reports from the manager? You're hearing that motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The reports are accepted. Next item is a communication accepting the resignation of John Flynn from the Zoning Board of Appeals. From the city manager, Dear Mr. Flynn, this letter acknowledges receipt of your letter dated January 25th, 2007, in which you resign as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Your resignation is hereby accepted. I'm filing your resignation and this acceptance thereof this date with the city clerk as required by law, and forwarding copies as a communication to the city council. The city of Lowell appreciates your years of service as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and on its behalf I extend thanks. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. And Mr. Flynn had resigned due to a conflict with increasing professional commitments. Motion to accept by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know Manager Lynch has sent a thank you along with the letter we have in our packet. And I know John Flynn, he was very dedicated member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, a great citizen of our city, and I wish him well.
Councilor Elliott.
I just wanted to, I agree with Councilor Caulfield, but I just had a question. Mr. Manager, what is the process for people at home watching that, again, may have an interest in serving the city, knowing there's a vacancy open? Is it sort of open application period that you accept resumes?
Councilor, we will be publicizing this vacancy and accepting applications. I already have a number of applications on file that people have been sending me over the last several months.
Okay.
That have expressed interest in the Zoning Board of Appeals or other boards in the city. So
Okay.
I'll be reviewing those and then interviewing and acting accordingly.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I think those of us who know Mr. Flynn, some of us better than others, but it's certainly anyone involved in youth sports has come across him. He's one of his other means of employment is to videotape young people for college tapes to send away for football players and things like that. So he's certainly been done good service in the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we'll all miss his service. All those in favor of a motion to accept his resignation, place on file, say aye. Any opposed? The acceptance is accepted. Next item is an ordinance extending the Artist Overlay District. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by extending the existing Artist Overlay District to include 150, 200, and 250 Western Avenue in Lowell. Is there a motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield? All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. This matter is to be referred for report and recommendation to the Planning Board. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. This matter will be referred to the Planning Board for report and recommendation. Next item is a communication from the City Manager. Dear Mayor Martin, members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as City Manager under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 26, as amended by Chapter 60 of the Acts of 1997, I have reappointed the following person to the Board of Health, effective February 6, 2007. William P. Bailey, 8 Westview Drive, Lowell, Mass. Member to serve for a 3-year term expiring February 7, 2010, or until a successor is appointed. Under the above referenced statute, confirmation by the City Council is required for this appointment and is hereby requested. I would be happy to answer any inquiries you may have concerning this reappointment. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Any questions, comments? Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call, please.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
9.
9 yeas, the appointment is approved. Subcommittee reports, Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council Subcommittee on Cable TV convened a meeting in the council chambers at 5:30 this evening. And in attendance was Councilor Rita Mercia, Councilor George Ramirez, Councilor Kevin Broderick, Mayor Martin, Councilor James Milanazzo, and Councilor Eileen Donahue. If I've forgotten anyone, just let me know. Also Solicitor David Fenton. And the purpose of the meeting was to establish some times and dates so subcommittee meetings could be televised. Mr. Hague was also present from Lowell Telecommunications System. At the suggestion of City Clerk Richard Johnson, the Tuesday evenings in the council chambers would be available from 4:30 to 6:30 for subcommittee meetings. It was also asked to Mr. Hague, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, subcommittee meetings could be taped with a Lowell Telecommunications personnel with a camera, and that meeting could be shown later at a different time. I heard Councilor Eileen Donahue suggest this on the radio, and I think that's a great alternative until we get the room wired for sound and for camera. So Mr. Hague didn't think this could work, and we more or less said, make it work. So that's one way to get the subcommittee meetings out to the public, and so they can witness what transpires. We thought that this meeting was just going to be a regular subcommittee meeting, and lo and behold, when I arrived and my colleagues arrived, the Boston media was present, and part of that meeting was discussing the film that was on local access channels Friday evening. A lengthy discussion took place with all my colleagues getting involved, and we questioned Mr. Hague. We questioned the film, inappropriate. It was an embarrassment to the city. And we asked Mr. Hague if there was anyone who would view the film or know what's going on our TVs, and he said no. After a lengthy discussion, Council Rita Mercier brought forward a motion, and she referred the motion to Solicitor David Fenton, and I will ask Councilor Rita Mercier now to give that motion. She has it in writing. So.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Mr. Mayor, I made a motion to refer this matter to Solicitor Dave Fenton regarding what is allowed on cable access and what restrictions can we put on program producers. And I chose Attorney Fenton because he represents the city in cable matters. I would ask that he be the person that provides us with a report, recommendation, and interpretation as to the laws that say what a person can get away with as far as what can they show on local cable access. And I think that's the gist of it. I know that there are laws in place, and to do any different would have to file something with the Supreme Court. So, I mean, it was very objectionable as to what I heard. I asked to view the tape today. I was one that complained the day that I heard about it, but the tape is in the possession of the producer, so I had no choice to, I had no way to see it, but from what I heard was enough, and we were all very taken aback by what we saw. I don't know if the rules say that, but that's why we're referring it to the solicitor.
Also in attendance is Manager Lynch. I'm sorry for not recognizing you, T.J. McCarthy and Tom Moses and David Fenton. I was kind of taken back by the response from Mr. Hague is there's nothing we can do. Well, I think the subcommittee stressed, and I think my colleagues will agree, that there is something we can do, and I know David Fenton is well-versed, has extreme knowledge in the law and in cable TV. So we're relying on you, Mr. Fenton, to address this. You come back with a fine report, and there is something we will do. It's an embarrassment to this city. It's a proud city, and the residents in this city shouldn't have to witness that on their television set. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm always amazed that there is nothing we can do. I think there's an awful lot we can do. I think that Mr. Hayes should be held accountable by his board of directors for allowing this to take place and using the shield, the Constitution as he is interpreting it. I would rather see monitoring these programs and disallowing them and letting whoever is hurt by being disallowed to go to court, instead of being, I can't do anything about it, so I'm going to let it go through. Now, I haven't seen this, and apparently the evidence is gone because the producer took it back with him, so there's no way anyone's going to be able to see it. But if what we heard about people who've seen it is true, that should have never been allowed. And I hold Mr. Hague accountable for that. A while ago, we had the same situation take place, and we were assured that these type of things would be monitored, that someone at LTC would take a look at it before they would allow it to go through. And apparently that did not happen in this case. And I think that's an awful way to run that program. I think someone should have monitored it, someone should have rejected it, and if the person who felt offended by it wanted to go to court to have it overturned, let it be the burden on them, so that our people in Lowell would not be subject to this type of activity. So I personally feel that Mr. Hague is accountable for what took place here, and I would hope that the board of directors that he works for, okay, would hold him accountable and take some appropriate action to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Freedom of speech being what it is, Constitution being what it is, sometimes it's probably best to test it. In this particular case, I think it should have been tested. I think that someone should have seen this and immediately disallowed it, and then let the burden fall on the producer, who probably would have taken the tape, gone home, and not pursued it any further. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I happen to agree with Councilor Mercier. I'm not an expert in First Amendment by any stretch, but it just seems reasonable that somebody would be taking a look at what's being aired across the city. I can only presume that there's got to be some regulations that can be put in place, and I came in just at the tail end of the meeting. I didn't know it was going to be discussed, but and I understand there is a community standard that really subject to broad interpretation to anyone here, but I just don't happen to think this is the image that we try to market across the Commonwealth, and for that matter, across the nation and even the continent. We have Canada and people from all over. I just, it's going to be on the Boston news stations. Not that it's a secret, but I don't think it's positive. It's not something I think this body is proud of. And, we have to hold Mr. Hague accountable. He's the executive director. He runs the show. He tells or he doesn't tell his staff what can or cannot be run. And I'm sure some of the board members are probably not pleased after learning of this. I don't think it's the values that we want to teach children that may or hopefully were not watching it. And I understand there's that window of time. It's public access. What about and I understand people have freedom of speech rights. We've heard that enough. But what about the rights of the people that pay the fees, to watch public access? And it's all, again, what I think is right may not, others may think something different. But this seems to have clearly crossed that line. And I can remember bringing up, I think it was probably 3 years ago, there was some, I guess it was a piece of art that had nudity. And, again, that's a subject to interpretation, but this seems to have gone, way overboard, in my opinion, and people should be able to take a look at it. I find it hard to believe that there is some restriction, some law that doesn't allow communities with public access being paid by user fees of those people in the community to have some discretion. Why have a board then? Why not be able to have some criteria on what can and cannot be aired? So I look forward to the report by Mr. Fenton. I know it's a fine line. By the same token, Mr. Fenton, what is it? How much do we were speaking earlier? How much does the city pay LTC? And I guess it's described as really it's not the city. What's their contribution? What's their revenue source?
Well, in response to your question, first of all, their primary source of revenue comes through the city via the access fee from the cable license agreement. 5% is paid by subscribers on their TV bill, of which LTC presently receives 3%. The city retains 1%, and the school educational television gets the other 1%. But out of the city's 1%, we also pay them by contract. We paid them over $100,000 this past year for municipal programming. So they received in the vicinity of $500,000 for out of the 3% access fee plus over $100,000 from the city. That's just in 1 year. I know the manager has a report of what they've received over the past 5 years or so in bulk from not only the access fee, which I've just described, but through the license agreement, they also receive a capital equipment payment. So they've gotten a sizable amount. I don't have the figures here tonight, but certainly I'm sure the manager can provide that to you so that you will see what it is. So yes, they're well paid.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. And along those lines, with what the subcommittee reported earlier, it just seems time and time after again we're trying to work with LTC, and I know, it's sort of a different entity, and they're not completely under the jurisdiction of the city, but we do have 50% of the appointments. It does, the television show's really a representative of the city, which would include us. It seems that, if we want some television or some meetings televised, we shouldn't be, it shouldn't have to be like pulling teeth, and that seems to be what it is. And whether we need capital equipment in that television room, I think the message has been loud and clear. People like to watch the meetings. We're trying to make government more transparent. It just seems to be a little bit of a struggle. So I don't know, how long is the contract? Do we go out for bid on this, with this entity?
Mr. Manager?
Because I agree, some accountability needs to be, needs to be enforced, I believe. And, does it go out to bid, it seems like?
Yeah, Councilor, it's my understanding, and Mr. Fenton can correct me on this, but we discussed this a little bit earlier in the subcommittee meeting, that it's an annual contract that the city has with LTC. We are obligated, I believe, under the Comcast contract, which is coming due this October, to have some entity that provides the public educational governmental programming. It doesn't have to be LTC. It can be another entity, or the contract with LTC can be crafted in such a way that's different than the way it is right now. In many communities, communities do it all differently, but certainly it's within the realm of possibility to just simply require that they cover, X number of meetings, X number of hours, or something of that sort as part of their receipt of the portion of the access fee. The 3% should perhaps contain a requirement that they cover our meetings, or perhaps we increase that in some way. But that's all subject to negotiations that take place on an annual basis, I understand, with LTC. So their contract will run out later this year, and we can either go with them, have another entity come forward, or structure a deal differently with them.
Well, I do understand that this organization is given first crack after, on an annual basis, but, it doesn't seem to be the spirit of cooperation between what the council thinks we need for coverage, what should or should not be aired. Maybe this body doesn't make that decision, but something, in my opinion, isn't working, and we need to change it one way or the other. So I support the recommendation from the subcommittee, and thank you for the time, Mayor.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that we kind of get into dangerous waters when we start talking about legislating free speech, and I believe a judge once said, I define pornography when I see it, I know it when I see it. I did not see what was on Friday night, but based upon what I heard, it really does sound like it was offensive. What I would like to do is to congratulate the subcommittee. I mean, I think they took the issue head on. I think that they certainly defended the integrity of the citizens of this community, saying that this is not something that we will tolerate going forward. And I think the motion is a good motion, and to get a report back from the city solicitor's office as to what we can or can't do on this issue. Regarding the issue of televising our subcommittees, looking at 4:30 to 6:30 on Tuesday, and then every other Wednesday, I certainly hope, working with the city clerk's office, I certainly hope that will work as well, because I think transparency in government, as evidenced tonight by the subcommittee meeting that we had at 5:30, is very important for this council going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two issues, but on the issue that's being discussed having to do with the program that landed on the front page of the paper, I mean, and I won't repeat what's been said, though I concur with everything that's been said here by my colleagues, but there is something, inherently dangerous, it seems to me, about a system that is really on the honor system, that producers of programs it's to their, good word that they fill out a form and say this is the content and yes or no, adult content. And maybe it has worked, but you can see that, a wrongdoer could really take advantage of that situation and put some, terrible stuff over the airways. So there is no check. And I think that's part of the discussion that the council is having. It's true. It comes up once an issue like this surfaces. It has created the discussion, which is a good one to have. But you look through and you see the warts and you see the problems here, and so this is a problem. Separate and apart from people's First Amendment rights, we're looking at a situation that is loose at best, and it does seem that. What you would be faced with is having offensive programming out there, maybe during prime time, hours, and then say, oops, that's not right. And then, as I said at the subcommittee, we're locking the barn door after the horse is gone. And that makes no sense. So these aren't easy issues. These are issues that the courts have struggled with for decades. How do we define this? How do we define that? But there are, cases that suggest, community standards should apply. So, and that's what we see in process right here, is this discussion. So I look forward to the report, and I think, again, I think the issue was one, timely, that the subcommittee didn't have a whole lot of warning to be taking up this issue and took it up tonight instead of, shelving it for a later date. And I think that's important to get the discussion going and to get some information back. On the other issue, I'm interested to know, as far as our funding, sources. Some years ago, we had looked at and it was either LTC or the then cable provider, the predecessor to Comcast, wiring the mayor's reception room. I mean, I appreciate trying to do the schedule, and it's certainly better than nothing. But there are some subcommittees that go a long time. There are some subcommittees that whoever it is you want to come to the subcommittee, it may not be convenient for them to come on a Tuesday, and it may be an important subcommittee. So I think it's great to try and shoot for Tuesday night and every other Wednesday if we can do it. But there will be times when we're just going to have to schedule it on another night because the parties who are participating aren't available. And it would be a whole lot easier if that room were wired. So if we can look in these contract negotiations, for instance, making that an issue, and I don't want to step on 107 or the charter, but let me just put it as a suggestion. Maybe that's something in talking to Comcast, as far as the hardware that is necessary. Can that be part of the negotiating process? So in addition to the monies that LTC receives as part of the cable and contract.
Certainly.
Thank you. If I could just add briefly, in the report, Mr. Manager, Mr. Fenton, whoever's going to be working on this, we heard in the first part of the subcommittee meeting that part of the problem with televising the government meetings was a lack of funding. And now we hear from Mr. Fenton tonight that 1% of the fee goes to government funding, 3% goes to the LTC operation. So I'd like the report to address, is that allocation required by law, or is that something the council has some flexibility, or the manager has flexibility to allocate? Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I would say that that's an issue that's subject to negotiation. As I say, in many communities, the public access corporation, public access entity receives some or all of the access monies that come in, but there is a requirement then that they cover a certain number of meetings, certain number of hours of meetings, all meetings. That's all subject to negotiations.
Okay, thank you. Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It maybe by way of a question or a query, if we could ask them, I think we've got the number of $123,500. That's our 1%? In addition to
that's my understanding of that's what we pay to them to cover the meetings.
Could we maybe get a breakdown of what it's spent on to find out how that's not enough? I mean, that might make sense in going forward. I thought we gave them more, but I didn't realize this was in addition. It was broken down like this, and that was $123,500 was just to cover our governmental part, our product. So maybe we can get a breakdown from them to find out how much is. What is this costing us?
Mr. Manager.
Well, essentially, it's they refer to it as PEG, access, public programming, educational programming, governmental programming. And it seems that based upon the formula that's out there, 3% goes to the public, 1% to education, 1% to government. So why it was divided in that way, I'm sure it has to do with the way it was negotiated when it was. Perhaps the 3% assumes that some portion of that is just the general overhead of the operation, which then the government and educational program feeds into. But it does seem that there's, I think that most programming that takes place, of course I come with a little bit of a bias perhaps, most programming that people tune into is governmental access. They tune in to watch the meetings. And that's the primary, one of the major purposes of cable access. So,
and also in line with that, I think we have two issues in terms of what we can restrict in the safe harbor hours. If that's the most we can do, I look forward to the solicitor's opinion on that. But we also have as Councilor Donahue referred to as the honor system, that if someone checks off the box that it's not adult material and submits it, it could play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we may, or if we can, impose some type of review process. And I know what we're going to hear: we need more money. So I think that maybe we ought to start looking at that in terms of if it's going to be it's going to be mandated, and this is what they have to do if they want their money. Because I don't think that we can just rely on everybody being unfortunately, not everybody's going to do the right thing, and then it's going to subject the rest of the subscribers to whatever they submit. So I think that it may be a way, Mr. Manager, I'm sure you've already thought about this, or maybe even spoken to LTC, of changing the numbers up to make sure that they have the funds that they need, or they understand what they have to do to get the funds that they get. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I want to personally thank the members of the subcommittee for handling a very delicate issue, and they did it extremely well. But more importantly, I want to thank my colleagues who came into these chambers. It was very encouraging to the subcommittee that your support was there. And it's a very delicate issue. It's an issue we can't let it continue. And I think Mr. Hay got that message strong tonight from Manager Lynch and this council.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Just a question for clarification. When we talk about revenues, what part of the amount of money we give LTC would have funded Channel 8's program last Friday? What percentage would that come from?
that would have come from the public access, that 3%.
The 3%.
Well, then probably what we should do is reduce that so that doesn't happen again.
Well, especially when we're being told there's not enough money to fund
That's right.
all the government meetings that we need to see.
The priorities over there are all fouled up.
Right.
If the 3% is able to produce that type of a show, but yet isn't good enough to produce subcommittee meetings, there's something wrong going on over there.
Councilor
So when you start negotiating again, Mr. Manager, please keep in mind that maybe their percentages should probably be allocated differently based on their priorities.
Councilor Donahue.
Yeah, because we can assure ours will be G-rated regardless of the time. We don't need safe harbor time.
Sometimes.
But just in follow-up, George Preston was the executive director, I think, before Mr. Hague, and there was a point a few years back where there was a negotiation, because I think at one point, maybe 0.5% was being given for the educational part, and then the high school got a television studio and more money was allocated. I think that's when it went to 1%. Attorney Fenton probably knows better than I, but you know, the schools took over a lot of the educational responsibility, obviously, because they had their own television studio. So at any rate, there's probably a lot of room for negotiation when it comes to these issues, looking at what they do at the high school versus here. And it might be worth exploring some of these things being filmed by, and I don't know, that can be done through the high school with interns and things like that who are taking courses. I don't know how that works, but you know, maybe there's some collaboration that can happen.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Well, I certainly think, I think Councilor Broderick raised this issue or this idea at the subcommittee meeting, that I think there's some tremendous opportunities that may exist with the community college and with the university, that there may be some ways to branch out here for, in terms of the organizations that may be able to provide this service, or the at least to provide some staff assistance moving forward. I think it's important to stress that there is a reason why and I do think the law has changed a little bit, or the regulations that allow the local governments to play a more active role in the programming elements. But generally, the thought has been that there should be a separate entity other than the government, so it's these issues of, you know, what's on the programming is outside of the realm of the governmental entity. But I think that we need to explore how there could be, you know, the proper allocation of resources and the controls are put in place to ensure that the programming is within is appropriate, but at the same time within the scope of the First Amendment. So Attorney Fenton will work on many of those legal issues, and I'll do some research in some of those other areas.
Okay. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I just want to follow up, Mr. Manager, on exactly that point. What is the composition of that board? I can't recall voting on any appointments. Does it require council confirmation? I know Councilor Mercia is, are you the council representative? She's she represents so the mayor makes the appointments? Maybe that can be part of the report, because, I mean, as you mentioned, there is a board or a commission set up with X amount of commission members. The city only have 50%. Mr. Fenton was telling me earlier, 20% from the city, 10% from the school, and another 20%, 50%, well, it was 50% from the city, and the other 50% of the members are appointed by the executive director, which I don't understand how that works when the city is from the subscribers. That's what I was told by. But I think that's an important, at least.
We'll get you that information. I know that the manager makes a number of appointments. The mayor obviously makes some appointments. I believe that the board itself
We have a
then
nominating
makes
committee.
the appointments.
So
I don't think the executive director makes any appointments.
No.
Well,
I
It's
don't
a
recall
nominating committee.
making
Not
any
technically,
appointments,
but-
except for my one quality representative, obviously.
I don't
I
know
think
if you
that's
did me
important
a
to find
favor.
out.
I don't, according to the morning show, you did not do me a favor. I'm getting killed.
But just to close on that point, I think it's important to find out, who. No one seems to know who makes all those appointments, and if what you're telling me, the board makes appointments to its own members.
Which is, I think that's pretty commonplace.
Yeah.
There's Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
There's a big annual meeting, which just took place not too long ago, probably sometime in November. And they had a nominating committee, and they nominated certain people to be all chosen. They try to take you know, someone from the city, someone representing the city, someone representing the school committee, Jackie Doherty, someone representing the public safety, Rainey Demers, firefighter. They're all from all over. Someone from the city, the library. So they try to take, and I know UMass Lowell, but it's a cross-section of the whole city. You do not have to be a Lowell resident to be nominated either. Alan Topia, our president, is not from Lowell. Rainey Demers does not live in Lowell. But when you think about the people that don't live in Lowell and they come to volunteer, they're not getting paid. They put in a heck of a lot of hours. I know that our president, Alan Topia, does a tremendous job. There's Michael Gallagher from the bank, not the attorney, but he's from the bank, and he puts in an awful lot of time with the finances, and nobody's getting paid, but everybody is there to do their job, and I don't have any fault with it. Of course, I'll get bashed tomorrow morning for saying that, but so be it.
Okay. I don't know that anybody's criticizing board members necessarily, but I think there's certainly allocation of resource issues and control issues that we need to look at. And so I look forward to the report as well. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay. Motion to accept the subcommittee report by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Further subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none, we move to the petitions. There's one petition from Butterfield Development regarding acceptance of Kelly Circle off Varnum Avenue. This matter gets referred to the manager and law department for report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matter is referred to the manager and the law department for report and recommendation. Next petition is from the Lowell Cooperative Bank requesting permission for an overhanging sign on 18 Hurd Street. This matter is referred to the Law Department to prepare the proper vote. So moved by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Law Department for preparation of vote. And third, we have a request for a handicap parking sign from Maureen Gilroy, 84 Bradstreet Avenue. Motion to refer to the traffic engineer by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters referred to the traffic engineer. Under motions, the first motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the responsible party make safe the entrances to the Black Bridge on Lawrence Street, i.e. larger signs and ample warnings in both directions. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In view of this motion, I realize that there is ample warning on each side of the bridge in quite a large area of before you get there. But more can be done, I feel. More can be done. Number one, if it's possible, if we could have blinking lights on either side, that will help like it did to the other Black Bridge, the Spaghettiville Bridge. I know that those lights weren't working in that particular bridge. I made a motion some time ago and they fixed them. Now, I don't know who's responsible, but something needs to be done in that respect, and the signage is fine and it's quite adequate. But I think with those blinking lights, that's what we probably need. And I know that we might not be able to do this, but it's just a thought. Perhaps we could have a large fluorescent sign on the bridge itself. Because although last week was a well-publicized case of a large truck getting stuck, on speaking to people that are in that immediate area, and one happens to be a business, I spoke to him at great length, and he tells me that this is happening quite often that people don't even realize. In fact, 2 incidents happened today where trucks would go underneath that bridge, realize they get a little bit through it, didn't want to go any further, knew they wouldn't make it, and backed out. Now that's 2 incidents that happened today, and on average, it's 6 a week. And this guy knows it because he's right there, and he sees it. So he's asking me if something could be done. What he's thinking about is he thinks that trailer trucks are coming from the area of Meadowcroft Street, and he's thinking that they're asking directions to the highway and are getting referred up Moore Street to take a right onto Lawrence Street, that if you go further, you'll find 495 by Woburn Street. And that's kind of what's happening to these trucks, that I think in the corner of Moore and Lawrence, we should be having a sign there that says that you should take a left. I would like signage on Moore and Lawrence instructing truck drivers that taking a right to the next bridge would only allow a clearance of 12 feet 4 inches, so that they know right then and there that I can't go that way. I'll have to take a left and find another way to get to the highway, which you can. They'll go down Lawrence Street, up Rogers, and go all the way down to the highway to, up Rogers to the highway by that area there. I'm also requesting that the proper department remeasure that, just in case the clearance isn't 12.4. You never know if we hot-topped in the area or whatever, and I just want to verify that the clearance is still 12 feet 4 inches, because I think that people are seeing a lot of things happen, and one truck backed into the guy that owns the monument place, destroyed monuments that he had in the yard, and they're turning around in his driveway and things like that. So although we don't see it and read that a truck got stuck, this is happening quite often than we realize, and so that's why I'm bringing this motion forward. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the police department address the increase in crime, prostitution, and illegal activity in the back Central Street area and request a report and recommendation on plans for improvements. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recently had the opportunity to be a guest on LTC. Wait a minute, it wasn't that night of Friday when all this controversy took place, but I was a guest on a Portuguese show hosted by Judge Oliveira, and he alerted me to many problems facing the back central area, that 3 incidents took place within 1 week alone. A store was robbed, a break-in in a residential dwelling where the people were devastated by this, and there's drug activity and numerous things that are happening as far as solicitation on Charles Street, where hookers presently bothering men as they go into the club. And this is something that I think we should put the police department on notice. Now, I know that the substation has moved from back Central Street area to Lawrence Street, and maybe this is contributing to be a part of it, where people think now they're not immediately looked after, they're going to start doing some things there. And so I want to nip this in the bud and see if we can put more enforcement in that area to let the people know that maybe the substation did move, but we're going to still monitor Central Street. We're not going to allow this to happen. I know that the Back Central Neighborhood Association will be meeting soon, and I know that the sector commander is always there. I believe it's still Jay Flaherty. I will attend that meeting. I will bring these issues up. But in the meantime, if you discuss your Wednesday morning meeting, please make note of this for Back Central.
And Mr. Manager?
Councilor, the police department is aware of all of these incidents, obviously, and they are developing a plan to address these, but we will get a full report to you on this. I had a discussion with the police chief yesterday in preparation for tonight's meeting, and this was discussed as well as the prior conversations we've had, but these are incidents that are being tracked, and we are developing a plan to address those.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Councilor Donahue?
Thank you. I don't know if there's any objection to adding this on to the motion, but it seems that this is probably an appropriate time. I know acting superintendent has been on the job a few months now, to maybe make a presentation to the Public Safety Subcommittee and update in terms of his vision, his plans for, not just Back Central, but changes or approaches to law enforcement in dealing with the issue of crime and crime prevention in the city. So, I know, you have to give him time to, get his feet on the ground and figure this out. But I think it's an important issue. I think, how crime is being dealt with and what measures the police are doing within reason. Obviously, there's certain things that the police department may not want to alert the bad guys, that's not us, but I mean the bad guys about, but I think it would be appropriate to give us a presentation, you know, when he's ready, as far as, you know, his vision in terms of fighting crime and preventing crime in the city, so.
Okay. Any objection to the motion?
Oh,
To the
no.
amendment? Okay. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I plan to support the motion. I think it's good to bring these issues forward, but if the maker of the motion would permit me just to touch upon an event that took place last night, because it is related to police matters, and that was the award ceremony that the Lowell Police Department had at the auditorium, and most of my colleagues were there along with the city manager, and just sitting there listening to what the police officers actually go through on a day-to-day basis, and listening to Officer LeBlanc when he got his Medal of Valor, and the other officers that got Medal of Honors and Distinguished Service Awards and Life-Saving Award. I was just in awe listening to the work that our Lowell Police Department does in each and every neighborhood. And I just think it really is important to let the viewing audience know that that event took place last night, and we are very lucky to have the police department that we have here in the city of Lowell. So again, I just wanted to make sure that our audience was aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that, Councilor. In fact, that award ceremony was televised, so we'll run at some point on
It was well covered by the Sun.
government access channel, right? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager and the Division of Planning and Development report on the efforts to fill the vacant Ames store on Bridge Street and the Hannaford store on Plain Street. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion more or less speaks for itself, but I want to be on top of this. It's very disheartening to go by Plain Street and see that beautiful building just vacant, just like Ames on Bridge Street, and it's been vacant for such a long time. I just want to know if the planning department is on top of this, and I know that it's not really them that say we're going to put this in, but I know it's in Demoulas is the anchor store, and maybe there could be discussion with people that own Demoulas to see if there's any tenants that they want to put in there. It's an opportunity to have more businesses in the city, and that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see vibrancy. I'd like to see excitement that people are able to go in there instead of seeing things vacant and a void in the city. And it's been vacant for such a long time, that Ames on Bridge Street, and I'd just like to see if there's any effort underway to, campaign underway to get these, filled, and that's very important to me. And I'm wondering what's going to happen with the vacant gas station on Bridge Street. Of course, we're going to be voting on that soon. What, is that coming back before us?
That was withdrawn.
It's withdrawn,
I
but...
anticipate that there'll be another proposal brought forward to the planning board in the near future.
Well, see, that's another area. I like to go up that gateway to the city and see bustling traffic and people coming and going out of stores and spending their money in the city here. So I think we got to be on top of it. We have to do something. This, to me, is economic development. See if you can bring the economy back into the city and fill the voids here.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Councilor, we have, it's my understanding that there are some legal issues with that property out on Bridge Street with the Ames. But we are looking at a number of possibilities out there. I've had some discussions, too, with Representative Tom Golden regarding some ideas of what we could do along that entire corridor to try to generate more business activity out in that area. We're also exploring some possibilities for the Plain Street location, the old Hannafords, to see what might be able to work there, including the potential of some municipal purposes that we may want to explore in the future that bring some life back into that area. Certainly, that's a great location right off the connector for, I would think, for a business, but there may be some other purposes that we...
When you say municipal purposes, that wouldn't be generating any revenue?
No, it wouldn't generate revenue, but it would generate some activity out in that area and address...
I would like to generate the Christmas tree shop or Building 19 and a half or some sort of thing like that.
We've been looking at the Christmas tree shop. Every community seems to want a Christmas tree shop, and they're actually, it's my understanding, they may be closing some of their stores. So But that's, we're still looking at some other possibilities out
All
for
right.
both of those locations
Keep us
as well.
posted as to what's going on, because
Absolutely.
I hate to see them empty like that.
Yep.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Broderick. City Council requests the city manager to report on the status of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Broderick.
I'm hoping for a better report. My understanding is that we just made a substantial seizure.
We have had a couple of substantial seizures over the last couple months that will help replenish that. We're also developing, acting superintendent and I have discussed how that money is going to be used, the existing money is going to be used to deal with some of the needs of the police department in terms of equipment and some issues we're trying to solve.
That's obviously the intent of this is to find out with the new chief or acting chief is what the plan would be for the use of the funds. I know there's been some issues in the past and for overtime and whatnot, and how the city can best use it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not to belabor the issue, but maybe 2 years ago, we went round and round with this issue. And I know Acting Chief LaValle has indicated to me and other councils that he is willing to roll up the sleeves and work with us to utilize this money the way it should be, to the best interest of the city. And we can utilize that money for overtime, for drug investigations and so forth. That was the intent of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund to begin with, to fight drugs and use that money that was confiscated from drug dealers to do it with. So I'm very happy with the response from the chief.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the motion. I think it's good to keep an eye on that fund because money does come in periodically, and we don't always know when it is coming in. Does that go through you, Mayor, to the auditor? That's tracked through the auditor's office, correct?
It is. Yes,
Okay. If there's no objection to the maker of the motion, can we also get a report on, because I know there was always an issue of supplanting overtime with this trust fund, which is, not legal under the regulations. But can we get a report as where we are with overtime? We're about a little over halfway through the fiscal year. And, I know overtime, comp time, all of these tend to creep up on us. So I think it's important that, we keep an eye on it, which I'm sure you're doing, Mr. Manager. But just give us an idea where we're at and how we can, use this fund to augment any of the needs in that department.
Okay. Any objection to that amendment, Councilor? Okay. Mr. Manager?
Council, we will provide you with that report. We're actually preparing an expenditure report for the council at 6-month point so that you know how we stand in all of our accounts.
Great.
In the area of overtime, particularly in the police department, again, Acting Superintendent LaValle and I have met on that, and he's putting in place a number of steps to reduce the use of overtime because we're running quite high on that area.
Great. We'll look forward to that report. I think we need to do something as we have learned from the past. It's particularly one area that always, is overspent or is short, and we have to find ways to cover that at the end of the year. So appreciate that, Mr. Manager.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager have the law department draw the proper vote to name the corner of Varnum Ave and Orchard Street for Roland Bureau. Bureau. Second by Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Caulfield.
The motion speaks for itself, and when the motion comes back from the law department, I'll have more to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager report on the proposed or anticipated start date for construction of the new ice system at the Songus Arena. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, I received a call from the principal of one of our suburban high schools, and the question posed to me was, will the floor, or the disruption of the floor, the construction of the new ice system, will it be a negative for their graduation? So I filed a motion immediately, and lo and behold, as it turns out, it's moot. Because I talked to Craig Gates today, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. There are 8 graduations held at the arena, at an average cost of around $12,000. There's $90,000 we could garner in revenue. And I spoke to Craig Gates, and he says the construction has to start in May. If we don't start in May, they won't have ice in October. Well, there's not much I or anyone can do about that. But it's not going to cost $1 million now. It's $1.1 million, because we're losing a substantial amount of money on the revenues. And I just, you can't cry over spilled milk. I feel like doing that, but it's a shame that. But Barica, their graduations is June 5th. University of Lowell, Lowell High School, Tewksbury, Andover, there's about 8 graduation exercises, and it was a way that we could garner some strong revenue, but can't do it now. So I don't know what we can do about it either. But it seems to me that if they started the construction on the floor after the last graduation, they said they need 5 months to complete the job. Well, it's well illuminated, it's undercover, it's not subject to weather conditions. They could work 2 shifts, but I'm just trying to find ways and means so we could, I just don't want to lose the money.
Mr. Manager?
Councilor, this was a consideration as we moved forward with this project, that it does take 5 months. It's not a matter that it's 5 months of work. The big issue is that the concrete has to be able to be, the work has to be done, the new concrete has to be poured, and then it has to sit,
Right.
It has to cure. And that takes a considerable amount of time. And then the ice system has to be brought up and running, and there has to be some buffer put in there. The question was whether you stop, whether you start at the end of the last graduation, as you say, and then impact the next hockey season and
it's a very risky chance.
You're going to lose on one side or the other, and the decision made by the Arena Commission was that they would rather lose on the spring side than on the fall side. And I certainly appreciate that. And certainly one of the issues that we have moving forward is that it becomes very difficult, because it's conceivable that we may have to, as we go in there with Sasaki to do the engineering work, it's conceivable that the scope of work may delay us. Then we'll be scrambling to try to get those graduations back. And that's certainly a possibility in trying to put the program off for another year or something of that sort. We should have a better handle on that within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
I suppose, or I guess, that the Arena, Craig Gates and his staff has probably sent a letter to all the high schools, and
they've all been notified.
And I just don't want to lose them, because if they find another place to go, they might not want to come back here. So I just want to make sure we dot the I, cross the T, and
absolutely.
Mr. Manager, those schools being directed to the auditorium as a possible alternative site, do we know, is that something that's feasible for them to do?
Right. Mr. McCarthy just pointed out some of the smaller schools may be able to go to the auditorium, but the high school would not be able to, and some of the larger schools wouldn't be able to. But we can certainly speak to them about that and speak to the auditorium management people.
Okay. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mayor, but you took my question. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager report on the monitoring of the hours that dumpsters throughout the city are allowed to be serviced and emptied. Second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not only did I receive a phone call, but with a backup letter, and in the Wood Street Shopping Mall, there was a drugstore located there. And the first letter was a B, so I'm not going to name the drugstore, but the dumpsters are picked up 20 minutes to 3, 3 o'clock, 3:15. And this constituent called me, and she said, it's right under my bedroom window. If it's under her bedroom window, then everyone is being disturbed at that complex. And another complaint, Mr. Manager, I know all my colleagues will chip in on this as well. Working on the back of a BFI truck is extremely hard work. They probably pick up 30 tons of trash in all kinds of weather. But that doesn't entitle them to throw the residents' barrels across the street, in someone else's yard. I was driving to the Lowell Highlands yesterday. There was barrels rolling down hills. So I just wish you would address that with BFI and tell them to be a little more careful with people's barrels. It's a very difficult job. Believe me, I know. And at the end of the day, they probably put in 10, 11 hours a day. But I've witnessed this. After they dump the barrel, they don't even know where it's going to end up. They just, let it go. And but the main issue is the dumpsters. People are complaining about the time. We had meetings with these haulers. They couldn't pick it up at a certain time. And who's ever picking up the dumpsters at the drugstore, I wish the health department and the building department would go up and have a nice stern talk and say, look, it's got to stop. It's just aggravating. I wouldn't put up with it. So that's why the constituent called me and I brought the motion forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From time to time, these operators of the dumpster companies, they do stretch it a little bit and come out when they're not supposed to, because we've had these calls every single year, it seems, at times. And this is happening again, according to Councilor Caulfield. I would look and see what the dumpster company is. We have an ordinance that says you can't pick up the dumpsters before 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm thinking that found out who the dumpster company is and just give them a call and say, listen, residents are complaining that this is happening. We have an ordinance, don't do it again. And so put them on notice. That's what we should do.
Hey, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, just to respond to a couple of those, we will certainly follow up as we on both of those issues. However, in both of those issues, and this is just to explain, we do contact. We get new drivers that come on. They get out there and they're certainly not aware, apparently not aware of the ordinance, or maybe they are and they're just pushing it, as Councilor Mercier has said. We do contact them. We do find them. But it is a constant problem. But we will certainly stay on top of it and keep on trying to enforce the ordinance. The other issue in terms of the barrels, yesterday I know was a very windy day. I'm not sure if that had any effect. Again, it's a constant problem with drivers, no matter what company, whether it be BFI, Waste Management, Russell. I've heard these for years in every community, that this is a constant problem, but we'll certainly contact BFI and advise them that they should be dealing with that problem.
Mr. Manager, the people who are emptying the dumpsters behind the drug, that's a private concern.
Right.
It has nothing to do with us. It's the drugstore who's hiring these people to come in.
Right.
And it's very evident they want to come in quick and get out so they can do someone else's. But they're not going to disturb the residents of the city. Thanks.
Right.
Okay. I believe that concludes the agenda. Mr. Manager, I think you had an announcement to make.
Just one announcement, Mr. Mayor, Council, is that, as everyone knows, everyone here certainly knows, this weekend is Winterfest. The festivities begin Friday night at 6:30. It has all of the normal events, including the human dog race, or sled races, and we also have on Saturday, they begins at 2 o'clock, running into the evening with the fireworks at 7 o'clock. And so the entire city obviously is invited, and we're looking forward to good weather, a little cold, but everything is in place, and it should be a great event.
Mr. Manager, do you have a team?
I do not have a team. I will be judging, so I cannot have a team. That would be a conflict.
Okay. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.